In this video we're going to learn about form mallet grip. There's two techniques. There's the cross stick, which you have one stick over the other and they're kind of locked in. Most people, I believe, nowadays play something called the Stevens grip, named after Lee Howard Stevens, a famous marimba player. In this grip, you hold one mallet really close to the end, right at the base between your middle finger and your ring finger and your pinky. And so with those two fingers, you wrap that mallet up, and the other mallet's going to go directly into the middle of your palm, and then on top of your middle finger, and that's going to kind of wrap around, and then your pointer finger underneath, and then your thumb goes on top. It's very awkward. I've taught this grip for many years, and usually the students for the first weeks, if not months, it's a very awkward positioning, but then once they get it, they can master it. So there's some concepts to this. First of all, you want to, unlike anything else in percussion, where your palm of the hand is on the top, when you're playing snare drum like that, you're playing two mallets, the back of your hand is towards the ceiling. In the Stevens grip, your thumb's towards the top, so you want to pretend like you're shaking someone's hand. So if your hand's in that position, that's the first step. All right, and then usually I have students put that grip in, and so if you see the mallet is coming upwards, and then you position the second mallet, the inside mallet, right in the middle of your palm, on top of your middle finger, kind of holds on to a little bit of it, the pointer finger's underneath, pointing inside, and your thumb is on top. That's the basic idea of the grip. And then you're matching it with your other hand. A couple guidelines: make sure your pointer finger is facing inwards. That way it'll allow you to adjust the interval. And the way you do that is a little bit of a rolling action with your thumb on top of the pointer finger. If your pointer finger is in too much, it will stop it from moving too much. So you want to have that pointer finger kind of as a base roller, so your thumb can position. So if you need a small interval or something a little bit larger. And depending on how large of an interval you're trying to accomplish, there's some techniques where you'll stretch your hand outwards, and that will create a rather large interval. But this is very uncomfortable to be able to play something in that position. Most of the time, you want to be in about a fourth or a fifth. That's most pieces are written for that kind of an interval. And the basic strokes, there's certainly when you're playing the mallets together, okay, you want to use some wrist. You end up using a little bit more arm as well than snare drum or two mallet technique. And then there's independent strokes. And so for independent stroke, you're going to be rotating on whichever mallet is not playing. So if I'm using this mallet, which they call the number 4, it's usually 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm rotating on mallet number 3. And the exact opposite, if I'm playing mallet number 3, I'm rotating there. And a good technique is to hold onto the mallet, not real tight, but just let it rotate, or you can actually even turn it with your hand, and that will get the proper wrist motion. Form mallet playing is much different than most percussion, because you end up using your wrist, your arm in many different ways. And the whole arm is turning a little bit from my elbow to play these inside mallets. Some basic strokes and some patterns. If you get into a fifth, so if you're playing C and G, I'm going to play C sharp and G sharp just so you can see it a little bit better. So get into a good position. You can start by playing 4 nice, good, full quarter notes on those mallets. Alright, if you want to do independent strokes then, start with mallet number 1, 2, 3, 4. You can play the 4 strokes together. mallets at once. And it just takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of strength in your fingers. You can do exercises where you're just using your fingers and kind of looks odd, but you're stretching your fingers out a little bit. And it just takes a while to get used to holding the mallets in the right position. So give it a shot, and you can ask your teacher or ask me if you need it, any advice on this.